In 1992-93, the West Indies were in a bit of trouble in Australia. First Test match, they'd scrambled out with a draw, very luckily. And then Shane Warne really came on the scene. He got 7 wickets in Melbourne, bowled Australia to victory. So West Indies in trouble, 1-0 down. Third Test match in Sydney, Australia make 500 runs, so they're in really real trouble. Brian Lara was a young bloke who I'd seen a little bit of. He came to Australia. The West Indies played a series of one-day games just before the World Cup in 91-92. Derek Murray was the manager of that West Indies side. And after Brian had batted once or twice in the series, Derek said to me, "Would you have a chat to Brian about his batting?" And I said, "Mate, I don't think there's much needs to be said." Anyhow, Derek sort of asked me, and because we'd played against each other a lot, I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll have a chat to him." So I chatted to Brian and I said, "Look, the only thing I'll say is you hit a lot of very good shots, but you hit them straight to fielders." I said, "You've got to hit them into gaps, otherwise you're wasting a lot of energy, plus, more importantly, you're wasting a lot of runs." Okay. So he goes away, he comes back about a month later, the West Indies play the World Cup. He got 80-odd at the MCG, every ball he hit went into a gap. And I thought to myself, aha, he's a pretty quick learner, this kid. Anyhow, he came in Sydney, as I say, the West Indies were in a bit of strife. And he got 277, he got run out, a dopey call by Hooper, Carl Hooper. I mean, and that's the only way Australia would have got him out. He did not look like getting out. And I thought to myself, here, this kid's going to get 300 easily. And I was really disappointed when he didn't, because it was such a good innings, it deserved 300. But the thing that stood out to me that day, there'd been a bit of rain in Sydney and the outfield was quite heavy. And the thing that stood out, Brian Lara hit 38 fours in that innings of 277 on a heavy outfield. And he didn't hit any sixes. He hit everything along the ground and he just kept hitting it into gaps. And that was the first, I mean, I knew before that Lara was a pretty good player, but seeing that 277, I thought to myself, this guy's better than a pretty good player. He's a very, very good player. And I think the reason why I've always had Brian Lara slightly ahead of Sachin Tendulkar, the two great batsmen of their era. And the reason for that is I guess I loved the way that Lara played spin bowling. The way he used his feet, the way he placed the ball. I guess because I enjoyed playing spin bowling a lot myself, that I just enjoyed watching Lara bat. And this day on a Sydney pitch that was turning a little bit, you had Shane Warne, you had Greg Matthews in the Australian side, and he didn't look in any trouble at all. Used his feet beautifully. And that was the first time I thought to myself, this kid is a very, very good player.